Reset Rehab, occasional rambling thoughts. This morning's stiffness. Why do we have stiffness? Largely going to be for two reasons. Number one, wherever you have stasis in nature, you get adhesion. So if something is just not moved at all, then it'll become stiff. Even though the majority of brain injury rehab patients, on the greater scheme of things, don't move as much as is healthy for people, I don't think the reason for their stiffness is because of lack of movement of that particular muscle. The other reason you get for stiffness is the muscle in question trying to give stability, and most often when stability is not that muscle's role in the function you're asking, in the movement function you're asking with the wider objective. To get fine-grained stability, authentic stability, it's a question of neurological control. It's not a question of, well, I was going to say strength. Neurological control is strength, but what most people perceive as strength is muscle mass, and the ability for a given muscle in isolation to move a given mass. So if you're lacking in the neurological control and can't do the fine-grained stabilization, which is all about timing, it's not about muscle mass, it's about timing. The stabilizing muscle has to fire a nanosecond before the prime mover for the action is going to fire. It needs to lock down what stays in place, and then that allows the big guns to fire. Now, if that isn't happening, then the bigger, more often the prime moving, the external musculature is going to have to provide stability. Frequently, this otherwise prime moving musculature crosses more than one joint. So when it tries to stabilize, it's not going to do it in a fine-grained way, just at one hinge. It's going to stabilize every hinge that it crosses. That's when you start getting the appearance of somebody walking in a suit of armor. You're also going to get this absence of neurological control if movement isn't learned in an authentic progression. If you start exercising at a movement level of which you're not competent, then whenever the body either anticipates or recognizes instability or stress or an inability to carry out the movement it's being asked to authentically, it will brace. Now, instantly it will always brace at the core, but it will also brace at whatever segment or area of the body it's anticipating or perceiving the instability. And if your neurological control isn't there, it will do it with the prime movers, and you'll get inauthentic stability, i.e. stiffness. It can present within the confines of one given movement, but then it can be considered an inappropriate muscle action. And so if you get it repeatedly over time, or within a movement you're doing frequently, that stiffness is going to persist. And what it will end up presenting in is the suit of armor feeling, the suit of armor movement style of many people who've had a suboptimal movement rehab. Anyone recognize that? The way to correct it is, number one, learn authentic movement and learn your movement authentically in the designated progression that you see babies going through. But also, if you have this stiffness and it's become chronic, i.e. presenting all of the time, that's actually going to be a barrier to that. So you're going to need to be able to remove that stability, to afford the opportunity to learn the authentic movement. That's where massage, foam rolling, a number of other things is going to come in. Then the thing is, if you massage and foam roll out all of that chronic stiffness, now the body's got no stability at all. So, but, now whilst that whilst that presents as sort of, well, what chance does that give me? The thing you cannot get away from is that movement has to be learned in the neural development sequence. It has to be learned in the way, you could say, which nature designs it. That sort of like then starts going on as if there's something magical happening, and if it's the force that is the difference that makes the difference. It's not. The way in which nature designed it such is also with physics as the guide, a logical engineering progression. That there is no substitute for it. The latter skills are functionally dependent on those skills that need to go before it, and if they're not there, that's when you get inauthentic movement. That's where you get stiffness. That's where you get all of the problems and injuries that inauthentic movement will create. And then if you've got no movement at all, well, that's even worse. So what to do? Once you've removed all of that stiffness, or removed enough of the stiffness that allows some movement, or a range of mobility and a range of movement, you've got to go back to the primitive movement patterns. You've got to take that window of opportunity, because it's only a small one, because you create that the scope for mobility. You've then got a window of opportunity to teach those authentic and primitive patterns. So you need to take that opportunity when it presents, start building your primitive movement patterns, start building the movement pyramid. And if you are quite a while post-op or post-incident, I dare say all of it is going to have to be revisited frequently. That's revisiting with the massage, revisiting with the foam rolling, and revisiting with establishing and reinforcing the primitive movement patterns. And given the nature of our situation, that's going to be an ongoing and daily thing until you get to a point where you can start to live an authentic movement lifestyle. Now, bear in mind, most supposedly healthy people, or never had a brain injury people, they live suboptimal movement lifestyles, inauthentic movement lifestyles, and get to lose all of their primitive patterns, and their movement starts to degrade. And they usually try and make the excuse of getting old. As I've said before, you don't lose movement through getting old. You get old through losing movement. End of this one.